Today's reading is from chapter 9 of Luke's Gospel, verses 37 to 42. The passage picks up Luke's narrative just after the Transfiguration. Jesus and his 3 disciples are descending the mountain. Once they arrive at the bottom, the crowd, including the rest of the disciples, are standing there waiting. Jesus is returning from a significant encounter, the experience of the Transfiguration. This was a powerful, intimate moment with God. In many ways, the first encounter in today's reading is that of coming down the mountain, moving from a significant time of spiritual nourishment to the realities of everyday life and ministry. You sense the frustration of Jesus in his encounter with the disciples. They were trying to do the right thing. They were trying to relieve suffering, and yet it wasn't happening. Their failure wasn't because of a lack of effort. It wasn't because they didn't know what to do. Their failure was because they didn't believe they needed God's power to succeed. They had forgotten that what they were called to do was in God's name. It was God's action working through them. The disciples had done all that was required, but it had become what they were doing, not what God was doing through them. The disciples had gotten so busy with ministry, they forgot to pray. As the man approaches Jesus, he is upset. He has asked the disciples to minister to his son, and they failed. In response, Jesus asks the Father to bring his son to him. This requires an act of faith. Nothing has worked so far. Yet the Father steps out in faith and takes his son to Jesus, the Word of God, and the child is healed. A key message of this passage is that faith in Jesus calls us to encounter with God, encounter with the other. This necessitates prayer, as highlighted by the disciples' inability to minister despite their good intentions. Today in the Word, we are shown powerfully the link between prayer and ministry. We are not only called to action as disciples, but also to a relationship with God. Sometimes we may need to remind ourselves to pause, pray, minister.